From Tally to Cali,
It's time
to wake up.
Wake up! Wake up! Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
and this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by Zaxby's
Now here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hajavandi.
and Corey Clark.
Smile for the camera.
Wake up! What's up, everybody? It's Wake Up Warchant, proudly presented by Zaxby's Indescribably Good. That promo code is about to expire if you're not a member of the Warchant.com family, and you need to take advantage of it because the value is not going to get any more sweeter than this, folks. 25% off an annual membership, $25 e-card to Garnet and Gold, and 3 free additional months tacked on top of your membership. So you'll be married to us for 15 months at a discount, and you get some free swag from Garnet and Gold. Norvell 2020 is our promo code. Get some. And get some Corey Clark in your life. Crank it up a little higher. He's here now. What's up, Corey? How are you, brother?
What's up, buddy? How you doing? And people should know that if you get 15 months of Warchant,
Come on.
at some point in that process, there is going to be a football game played.
There we go.
You know what I mean? There is going to be at least one football game played in the next 15 months. So it'll pay for itself. You'll get your money's worth at one point. I don't know when. I'm hoping in 28 days from now. But even if it isn't, somewhere in the next 15 months, there's going to be football played.
What if you pay with an Amex and then you dispute the charges to Amex if there's not a season? Like, hey, I signed up for this membership at this website to talk about football. There's not a football season. I want my money back. I wonder what Amex will do.
I don't know. Amex is going to do a whole lot.
Yeah.
And I was going to say, I'll make the Corey Clark guarantee
Ooh.
that if there isn't football played in the next 15 months, you do get your money back, but that's not happening. I don't have that kind of power. And you wouldn't want your money back anyway because you still get a lot of you still have a lot of good times on Warchant, even if there is no football to talk about.
There's a guy who was with us from the beginning of the program, I feel like, wasn't happy about something the other day and said that he was going to cancel. And I almost wanted to retweet him and be like, if he does cancel, first person who responds to this, I will pay for you to get a membership so that we don't lose numbers. And it's not that, like $70-something? Like, I'll do that just to spite this person. I like them too. I thought they liked us, but they're like, my feelings are hurt for some reason or something. But anyhow.
Well.
You can't please all the people all the time or whatever, right? Something like that?
That's the exact saying. You got it right.
Yeah, all right, right on. By the way, if you do listen to us on – no, not Streamcast. What's Streamcast? That's what I use for our videos. If you listen to us on Spotify, that's where I was going, Spotify. We've done some house cleaning, keeping in the background, changing things over. Speaking of house cleaning and keeping, Corey has his help over for the night, taking advantage and keeping things
Yeah, that was
nice
a little louder than it was supposed to be, I think.
We have transitioned and migrated things over, so hopefully you should see us on Spotify now. There's like over 1,000 of you that do. It's crazy. It just everybody listens to us on all these different platforms. I really wish everybody just did one thing, but that's not the way life works. If you're having problems with that, tweet at the show at Wake Up Warchant on Twitter. I'll see what I can do about it. Anywho, as you so succinctly said, I think on your Twitter feed, probably around, noonish on Thursday, never a dull moment on this beat, although I think you conveniently forgot a 3-month span between November and January.
Oh, I know. Yeah,
no football 2 years ago, so that was pretty dull.
Yeah, there wasn't any football. That's right.
That was pretty dull. But business picked up kind of in a weird way, I guess you could say. We touched on it in the podcast last night as news of DJ Matthews tweeting out and then subsequently deleting his tweet about his COVID positive result picked up momentum in terms of some teammates expressing their displeasure, which then was sort of met by support from other members of the team. Mike Norvell then faced the media, and it seemed like, if you listen to him talk about it, pretty much a lot of these things kind of caught him off guard, which I never looked at the timestamp on Warren Thompson's messages. He's the one player that sort of shot the first salvo. I assume he wasn't at practice then probably on Thursday, right? Or do we not even know that?
Yeah, no. No, we don't know it because Norvell wouldn't say. But Warren Thompson, DJ Matthews, and Tamarian Terry were all tweeting during that time. Ooh. Which would lead you to believe that obviously DJ tested positive, which we got confirmation from Norvell about that, but that at least Tamarian and Warren Thompson are being quarantined because of it.
Or, that's what I would imagine is the case. I mean, is there any possibility that was like a silent protest? That's what I tried to ask Norvell, and he didn't want to really respond to, which is fine. That's not a criticism. It's just me explaining the situation. I think I asked him, of the people that weren't at practice today, I mean, how many of them were medically excused absences? Because I just didn't know if maybe some guy sat out because of the displeasure or the communication problems that Warren sort of hinted at. But I guess the silver lining is that if those guys weren't out there because they were quarantining, well, then it does mean that they are taking the protocol seriously and they are contact tracing and they are isolating guys, which is, again, we knew this was going to happen. Guys are going to test positive. It was all about the way you responded to it, which sounds like if that's the case, they didn't practice because of that reason. Well, they're doing it the right way, but you can't help but overlook just the sort of message that warrants. It wasn't a thing of, hey, man, like I got to sit out because I came across DJ. It was I have to sit out because it sounds like they're not running a tight ship is almost kind of the way he was implying things. And he's like he's public enemy number one, it sounds like, in Florida State circles, man. It's just you can't like him. There's nothing to come out in his sort of favor and defend his honor or anything, I guess. But, man, he is on all corners. Twitter, the message boards on warchant.com, and Warren Thompson is not very well liked right now. And I feel bad because part of his message was he mentioned something about being ridiculed for speaking up or maybe being hesitant about the way the protocols are in place, and the way that the fan base has responded is kind of like, shut up and play, pack your bags and leave, you're a cancer. Welcome to 2020.
Yeah, it was a lot. It's another day waking up to something like this. It can be both, man. And I know it's going to sound like I'm sitting on the fence. Maybe I am.
You're not. No, it's not, man. You can want to play football, but you want to make sure that you're doing everything to the T or as much as possible to mitigate.
Oh,
this.
Absolutely. But you can also have a real problem in a legitimate gripe with the people at your university, and maybe don't call them liars to the rest of the world. Yeah. Like, that's an option too.
Absolutely.
And according to Norvell, he talked to Thompson last night or 2 nights ago, had a one-on-one with him. So obviously he didn't like those answers. But what my problem with what Warren Thompson did was it was so vague. It's just, I can't, lies from our leaders. Number one, he doesn't mention Norvell by name, doesn't mention Coburn by name, doesn't mention the training staff, doesn't mention what the lies are, just says lies by leaders. Well, let us know. Like, you're opening up Pandora's box, open it all the way up so we know. I didn't quite understand why he was so vague. What was the point of it if you're going to be that vague? Other than to I just let people know then. If it's outlandish what's going on, let us know. But you can also do that. Maybe he thinks he did. Maybe he thinks he had the talk with Norvell and it didn't go the way he wanted, and so now he's got to tell the rest of the world. This is a kid, again, I'm not shooting the messenger because the message is really, really important, but this is a kid that publicly called out his last coach.
Well, it wasn't his mom? I think
Sure,
it was his mom.
But his mom did it. Like, look, do you think your mom would post something on Facebook about Gene Williams if you didn't want her to? Or do you think you'd be like, Mom, please take that down. Please take that down. I'm still on the team. My only point
My mom knows I'm a rotten SOB and deserve
yeah.
everything that's coming my way, so she probably would.
So my biggest issue isn't Warren Thompson. My biggest issue isn't what he the way he did it. You might not have, but I guess I was saying why people have a problem.
You just made it sound like that was the issue.
I'm saying that's what people would have a problem with.
Okay.
Is that, I'm sorry, I did make it sound like it was me. I can understand that part of it. From those people being like, dude, why are you doing this? Your teammates, you are trying to play a football season. What does this accomplish to call out this thing publicly? Again, your family making another public statement about a head coach, something so important, but not even making a public, like not even telling us what you're talking about. So I understand people having a gripe with that, but the biggest problem is, what in the world's going on with Florida State's testing? Are they not testing? Like, what is Warren Thompson's problem? What is his problem with, because that is the most important thing. You can't sit there on Tuesday with the governor, the president, the AD, 2 players, and your head coach talking about all these safety protocols and everything you're doing for the student athlete and how it's so much safer. And then that night or the next morning or 2 mornings later, you're one of your football players is telling everybody that you're lying about it and you're not testing. And so, when Norvell comes out on Thursday when he talked to us and said, look, before camp started, we had 4 tests. Okay, well, they had been there 9 weeks. So when Coburn says we're testing every week, and then Norvell says, well, no, we've only tested 4 times until fall camp started, well, you can see the disconnect there. Now, on the other side, because this is what I do, folks, this is what you pay for, Coburn could have been talking specifically about, hey, now that camp has started, we're testing once a week, which I think is what he meant. But it was misconstrued from the players as saying, oh, this guy's telling the whole world that we've been testing once a week since June, since we got back here. And that's not true. So, number one, another huge miscommunication that, of course, a Florida State football player goes to Twitter for. But then also, why aren't you testing once a week? Why haven't you been testing every week since June? It costs too much? What's it going to cost if the whole team has an outbreak and you don't get to play, which very well might happen? So anyway, sorry, I think you hear that beeping now. That's something else from the kitchen. And I'm going to get her to start up the vacuum here pretty soon. So I hope that's okay with everyone. I got some stuff to take care of in the house. Got to get it clean, folks. Got to get it clean.
I mean, to your point, listen, I was a fan not too long ago. I know how it is. I mean, maybe I would have reacted differently if, I wasn't covering the team and, was more emotionally invested. And I get it. I get to your point. I get that everybody's numb to all this. Everybody's sick of putting masks on. Everybody's sick of having to wash their hands 20 times a day. Everybody's sick of not being able to do what they've been doing their whole entire lives. I get we're all numb and sick and over this, and man, it would be so nice to be able to escape and play college football and be able to watch football with our friends and our family and do the things that we've always done. And when these things happen, it's like, man, can we just get out of our own way and let this season happen? And I get it. And I really do. But I just wish we just kind of maybe keep some of those thoughts to ourselves. It's kind of crazy. Like, we're on Warren Thompson for, why don't you just shut up and keep it to yourself? And it's like we're burying this 20-year-old kid for maybe things that maybe there's some accuracy to it. Although Mike Norvell, as he was learning all this kind of in real time, did point out, I think, on 2 different occasions that it's, there were some inaccuracies or fallacies in his statement. I don't know if he posted a different one on Instagram and Twitter. What I saw first was his post on Instagram, and there's nothing he specifically states about testing, but does mention that, I have been lied to multiple times about the conditions of other players' health as well as mine. So I guess you could kind of go ahead and make the leap, not even a leap, but the step over to he's talking about testing. But maybe he pointed out the Twitter post. But, on the flip side of it, Marvin Wilson, Asante Samuel, I think some of the special teams guys, is Steven Gabbert still snapping the ball for Florida State?
I don't think so. He might be, but I don't think so.
He tweeted about, keeping things in house, I think. Ryan Fitzgerald, the kicker, tweeted out, hey, let's, I feel safe. And Jaden Lars Woodby started off, I think, his media availability by shouting out the medical staff and saying that they don't get enough recognition for what they're trying to do. And I believe it, man. I'm sure the health staff is doing everything they can to keep these kids safe, but then it ultimately falls on the players and the coaches to actually execute and enforce all this. What do you think about Coach Papuchis, the defensive ends and special teams coordinator, retweeting Marvin Wilson's message of support with hashtag leadership? I don't remember anybody rallying around Marvin Wilson for being a leader earlier in the year. But then it's like, this is, being pro management will get you love, but being pro player, not necessarily.
Well, again, though, it's hard to comment on something like that. It's so hard to know. We don't know any of the biggest problem I have with the way Florida State has done this, and it's not just Florida State specific, it's all over the country. You're trying to convince, a lot of people, presidents, ADs, fans, players' families, that this is in the best interest of their family, of your team to play, because it's safer there. But then you don't give us, and I'm not talking about the media, I'm talking about us fans, college football, humans, people that like watching sports, any information on we don't even have to know who's testing positive. How many positive tests have you gotten? What's the ratio? How often are you testing? We didn't know that. Now we know it's once a week, which isn't enough. But it's at least the NCAA mandated that it has to be once a week. And now that football season has started, it is going to be once a week. But for those 8 weeks leading up or 9 weeks leading up to it, it wasn't. Why not? So I don't even remember how I started that. I don't even remember what your question. Oh, it was about Papuchis. I think there's probably a good faction of the Florida State football team that had a really big problem with what Warren Thompson did. Because what I wonder about, was he really lied to, or was it a misunderstanding? Yeah. Now I'm not saying that Norvell can't err, or that Coburn can't err and they can't make mistakes, or they can't lie. But like I said on the video, I don't know that my men are out there twirling their mustaches, trying to be evil, trying to get these kids, lying to these kids just for the sake of lying. I think it was a miscommunication. I think he heard Coburn say we test once a week and thought, well, that's a lie. That hasn't happened. Well, in reality, it is going to be the reality from here on out. They will be testing at least once a week. It needs to be 3 times a week, just like the Big 12, just like the SEC. It's ridiculous that the ACC would only test once a week. And when you talk about players' welfare, that's a big deal, especially when it comes to something like this, which is, depending on who gets it, life or death. And you look at somebody, you've seen the Syracuse thing, right?
Yeah, this is like the third. I think on Thursday that was the third day and third time in about a 7-day span that they've not practiced the players because they haven't been tested.
Yeah, or they don't get the results in a timely manner. And it's like, you know what? Good for you, because it's you're the ones doing this. And if you're going to be
Corey, I love you, but would you be saying that if Florida State did that? Like if Florida State players were like, I'm not.
If Florida State absolutely. If Florida State players weren't getting tested or weren't getting the results, absolutely. They're the ones that are trying to save an athletic department. They deserve to know who on their team is ill, who on their team has it, who on their team doesn't have it, maybe even more importantly. And when I get tested, I'm going to know my results as quickly as possible, and we're going to be tested more than once every 2 or 3 weeks. Absolutely. Because look at, I know they're amateur athletes, but you saw the start to Hard Knocks. Yeah. That's a whole different ball game, man.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And college football makes a ton of money. So it's a $1 billion industry where they're testing almost at this point, it's not even recognizable. Like, hey, Dabo makes as much as Bill Belichick. Nick Saban makes more than Bill Belichick. Nick Saban would be the second highest paid coach in the NFL probably. Assistant coaches make more in college football than they do in the NFL. But when it comes to money for testing, all of a sudden colleges don't have any. And meanwhile, these kids were watching Hard Knocks, seeing these guys are being tested every day. And I know it's a different deal. They don't have the money, but it's a $1 billion industry. If you want these kids to save your athletic department and save you from having to cut thousands of jobs potentially, man, figure out a way to test them and make them feel safe. So there's 2 competing thoughts here. Again, I'm going back to the very beginning. I understand why a football player might be worried that he's not getting the right information, the up-to-date information as quickly as possible. Wouldn't you? If you were in their position, wouldn't you want to know who on the field with you might have it?
Absolutely.
And more than that, wouldn't you want to know that everybody on the field with you doesn't have it? You know, they've all been tested quickly. They've all been tested recently. They've gotten the results back. Let's go practice. So you want that. Everybody wants that. At the same time, man, you just called your head coach a liar.
But he didn't, though. He said
no,
leaders.
I know he didn't, but that's how it's perceived, right? I just clicked on the headline.
Yeah.
And the headline says, Florida State players call Norvell liar. Call coaches liars. And it's like, well, yeah, when you don't specify who you're talking about and you just say leaders, well, Norvell fits under that umbrella. And it's again, Norvell's learning on the job really quick what it's like to be at Florida State in 2020. And, I made the point on the video that we did that, I don't know, it's probably not even fair, but this stuff isn't happening at Alabama. It's not happening at Clemson. I think a player, I just think if you think you're chasing a national championship, if you're a top five team, maybe you're not so quick to rush to social media than when you're 6 and 7.
That's a good point. That's for sure. Yeah. I mean,
because maybe the program means more to you, and you don't want to embarrass the program. Now, that doesn't mean, hey, sit there and take it and let them lie to you if you think you're being lied to. But there are other channels you can perhaps go through to get your point across. Maybe talk to Norvell again. Maybe request a Zoom meeting with Coburn. I mean, if you're Tamari Terry, man, it's not a bigger star on the team. Like Warren Thompson could get Tamari Terry and DJ Matthews on a Zoom and say, we want to talk to Coburn right now. What are you talking about? You don't have to necessarily tell millions of people and make it a headline for the next 2 days. But again, it's his right, like Norvell said, and I give credit to Norvell, man. Like he wasn't. It'd been crazy if he banned social media today. That's probably not the real move he can make there. But he's like, look, it's part of social media. It's part of this. Like they have a platform. They have to use it. But he, in no uncertain terms, basically said that it was untrue. Yeah. What Warren Thompson was saying was completely untrue, and Warren Thompson had not been lied to.
It just, again, when we criticize kids for the way they use social media, and then other people use social media in a similar vein, but that's acceptable just to me is kind of crazy. Last thing about this before we get to the question,
but you get it, right?
Yeah, man. Listen,
people would have a problem with it.
You're a Florida State fan. You don't want your university to be embarrassed. I get it, and it's creating all these stories. But it doesn't mean you have to go out and thrash out against the kid. You can get it. There's cell phones with text messages with your friends, and your group text message can be like, "This kid needs to beat it." I get it. I mean, I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm the snowflake here. I should stop reading Twitter and get affected when I see other people getting kind of bullied. I shouldn't let it affect me. I'll work on it. I'll get better.
Well, I mean, Warren Thompson knew what was coming, right? I mean, you don't make posts like that and are surprised by the reaction, especially coming on the heels of Marvin's tweet back. I think that was June. Was that June? May? Was that 2016? It's hard to keep up.
I can't believe
anymore.
Jimbo let him do that. I can't believe it was Jimbo.
Yeah, that was crazy. That's not like Jimbo. So yeah, I mean, just on top of what Marvin did, and again, both of them have every right to do that. And Marvin completely thought he was being lied to. Apparently, that was just a misspeak,
semantics.
Whatever you want to say.
Yeah,
no, I wouldn't say semantics. It was a misspeak. You can't say you talked to everyone when you didn't. And that's what Norvell brought that up today. He said the word every, and he shouldn't have, going back to the Marvin Wilson thing. But he was much more defiant, I thought, talking about this.
Loved it. People love that, Corey. Ooh, they love that. They're like, ooh, they loved it. Ooh,
well, it was like, look, with Marvin, number one, it was the person. Like, again, nobody's more respecting that locker room than Marvin Wilson. So when he calls you out, you can't be like, well, he's a liar. You can't do that. But number one, there was validity what Marvin was doing, and I think Norvell understood that. Like, he realized, yeah, I insinuated there that I had all these one-on-ones with players when I hadn't. He came out and he gave Marvin and said, yeah, I was wrong. He apologized, said he misspoke. With this, there was not that at all. It was, nope, that's untrue. I think that's untrue. And he had just found out about it as he left the practice field because they were tweeting during practice. So he just found out about it, and yeah, he made a point of saying, nope, that's untrue. He did not. He was not apologizing at all for anything he had done in this instance.
Two quick things. I do think that they're not technically considered in season. The Power 5 guidelines that they sent last month said that if you are engaging in high-risk behavior with someone who's tested positive, which does include tackling and physically colliding, you would have to quarantine for 14 days. But since this is considered preseason, I think they could probably go ahead and I think you mentioned on the video, I mean, even if you are testing once a week, Tamori Terry and, DJ and whomever else, you got to test them as soon as you can. And they could probably still get themselves back onto the playing field within that 14-day window, I would think. Like if they tested Terry on Thursday and Friday the results come back that he's negative, you could probably go ahead and roll him out there and he doesn't miss any time. So there is sort of like that silver lining or built-in luxury they have by the timing of this happening. And then the other thing that I didn't like, and a bunch of people did, which shouldn't surprise anybody because I'm on the wrong side of all this stuff, I didn't like the Memphis guy, the Memphis player, criticizing Florida State players, and then all the Florida State fans like supporting the Memphis guy to dog on the Florida State player. Like this was...
I didn't see that. Tell me what you're talking about.
A player from Memphis basically said, y'all in Tallahassee got it too good with the silver spoons in your mouth. This is the reason you're reacting like this is because he's making you work hard. Trust him. He'll make you a great football player. And it was like, hey, man, like we get that sentiment. These guys want to play football. This isn't the Junction Boys. This isn't trying to get a sick day because Paul Bear Bryant's running you into the ground. Warren Thompson looked really freaking good out there in the limited footage that they've shown of him at practice. He's been out there making plays and running like a madman. He doesn't strike me as a guy that was looking for a day off. So I get you coming to the defense of your former coach who's probably helped you out. Then part of that, I'm just like, man, like where did that come from? I don't know. Did you get a text message that, hey, your guy's getting beat up on Twitter and you're going to defend his honor, which I guess is kind of cool, but just the way Florida State fans like, yeah, that's right, man. And then Florida State fans like, I can't wait for all these Jimbo and Willie guys to leave. We got to get rid of all them. And it's like, God grief, man. Can we just go back to work? Just do something.
Well, I mean, it's how fandom works. Number one, but,
it is. I know. I'm yelling at a cloud.
But I'll also say this too. Like, Warren Thompson was briefly kicked off the team, and he had the episode last fall that we documented. So it's not like he's earned a lot of trust and respect from Florida State fans either. Like, this has happened before. It was a much less serious accusation. It was just, he was lied to by Willie. That's what the mom's Facebook post was, and that he was briefly kicked off the team. So it is different, man. It is different than if it was coming from if this time it was coming from Marvin Wilson. So again, it shouldn't be. And if what he's saying is true, if they've been lied to, well, then obviously shame on Florida State. I have a hard time believing that. Again, he said leaders. I don't know who that means necessarily. I certainly don't think anybody on the training staff is lying to these players and saying, no, he's not sick when he is. I just can't fathom that. So what exactly is he talking about?
Here's the tweet is, I'm not gonna lie. Y'all boys too spoon-fed down there in Tallahassee. Nobody perfect, but y'all down there doing this because y'all don't like the way Norvell operates. Just do your part and you'll be successful. That man is going to make sure you win on and off the field.
Hey, high praise, man. That's high praise. That would make Florida State fans happy. But yeah, I don't necessarily think you need to. I don't think I'd ever be a fan that would tweet at a player like, screw you, Benedict Arnold. I don't think I can't get into that mindset. So it's hard for me to quite understand it. But I can understand how that rubs Florida State fans the wrong way. That you felt the need to go to Twitter to essentially call your coach a liar. Like, again, we don't know that he's calling Norvell a liar, but that's how it comes across. You're certainly calling the leaders liars. So how moving forward, how does that play out? Like, Warren Thompson going to be starting September 12th, catching 3 touchdown passes, and everybody's happy again? Like,
everybody's proud of Marvin Wilson again. Everybody loves Marvin Wilson again. So yeah, catch a touchdown. Go climb the ladder against Miami and pull down a touchdown.
Yeah,
and
but
go
people
up 2
like
scores.
Marvin Wilson. Marvin Wilson hasn't made a tackle since anything like that happened in June. Number one, he had built up some goodwill, and that was squashed within 12 hours and explained away in a reason that made sense. And the coach apologized for it. And I think a lot of people understood why Marvin was upset, because it looked like his coach was talking about race relations and how important it was to him, when in reality he hadn't said anything to Marvin. You're kind of throwing a whole university under the bus. But then again, there's part of me that also says, well, maybe some of these universities do need to be thrown under the bus. Get your stuff together now. We're in August. You're trying to convince everybody that it's safe to play. Make it safe to play. And if they don't know who's sick, and we don't, and that's another problem really is Norvell kept talking about transparency and how they're trying to be as transparent as possible. Okay, well, who's quarantined right now? Well, I can't tell you that. How many? I'm not going to talk about that. How often do y'all test? Well, I'm not going to, do other players know?
HIPAA, Corey, HIPAA.
Do other players know when somebody on the team is tested positive, like who it is? He wouldn't answer that question. So, okay, you can be transparent to a point, I guess.
You know what he did say that we didn't talk about on the video, and this is my last thing I'll say, and then we need to transition to
let's
something
go.
else.
Yeah, it's too much.
He did mention that, he said something about, and this is us not being able to watch practice, so we really just have to break down the interviews to a painstaking level. But he did say something about it's a university decision, and we're going to continue to follow that decision. Like, he never said us or we, like when it came down to why they're not revealing the testing stuff. So Maybe some of that's a little bit misguided if we're criticizing him, which I don't think you necessarily.
Oh,
were.
I'm not criticizing him, and I'm not saying he's hiding behind it. It's just why is Notre Dame telling us every 2 weeks how many times they've tested an athlete and what the results are? But Florida State isn't.
Are they staying in a hotel, Notre Dame players? I saw somebody tweet that. I don't know if that was sarcasm or a joke or something, because there was some sort of tweet about find out how Notre Dame has been able to pull off this great testing system and keep their numbers down so low. And somebody responded along the lines of, because they've been staying in a hotel for the last 3 months. What are they going to do when they go back with students? I should have probably kept clicking and digging deeper, but...
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, hey, they bubbled themselves up. That works, I guess.
All right, moving on.
Can you imagine all the great hotels you have to choose from in South Bend?
Oh, gosh. I was there. There were none.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving along, the SoCon Conference, I think, announced that they're not going to play football in the fall. Why do we care about the SoCon? Well, that's who Samford, that's the conference they're in, but apparently they have not made a decision. This comes from, I think, a reporter out there in Alabama, in Birmingham. The athletic director for Samford, Martin Newton, says that no decision has been made at this time on their non-conference football games versus FSU and Tennessee Tech. I think Gene even jumped into a thread and sort of put some cold water on somebody. I was like, well, this game's canceled. Let's get Texas on the schedule. So that's another thing to kind of keep an eye on. Crazy, though, despite all this, Corey, my stock report on a season happening really hasn't changed. Although I feel that maybe some people think I was jinxing us by saying we're going to play football, which I'm not jinxing. I want to play football. I am not rooting for the virus, I assure you. Does any of this change the way you feel about football being played?
No, as long as the colleges... again, you hear about this from Florida State. You see the thing from Syracuse. It's troubling. Like, just make these, like, I know that it wasn't a lot. It was about 10 or 12 Florida State football players came out and said they felt comfortable. It wasn't the whole team other than those 3 wide receivers. It was about 10 or 12 or 15 guys said that they felt comfortable, but it was a lot of guys that didn't say anything. And there were certainly 3 that were very vociferous in the other direction. Make these guys feel comfortable. Test them as much as possible. I know you can't do it once a day. It's cost prohibitive. You can't do that. You can do it more than once a week. And figure out a way to communicate with them in a way that makes them feel safe, man. That's all. And again, I don't think anybody was lied to necessarily, but that also doesn't mean that if you have a problem with the safety measures in place or you don't trust them, that you're not at liberty to say you don't trust them. You know what I mean? Like these guys want to, and that's another thing. Like the whole, when Norvell said like 4 or 5 times, look, they're voluntarily here. They don't have to be here essentially. Like they're volunteer.
They know what they signed up for. I think they know what's going on. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he must have said 4 or 5 times this is voluntary. They don't have to be here. We've never we've always said if they wanted to opt out, we'd support them fully and they stay on scholarship. Okay, yeah, we got that, but. I think there's 2 things. Like, okay, we know it's voluntary, but these guys want to play. So get them in the best position to play where they feel safe enough to play. And again, I'm not watching how much they're testing, but obviously they've been on campus since June, and they had been tested 5 times, maybe 6 at the most, in 10 weeks. That's not a ton for 100 guys. So I think that's ramping up now. I would like them to ramp it up a little more and then put all this behind you and go play football. How about that, Aslan? How about we do that?
Hey, how about we move forward and answer some questions? We got a whole bunch.
Let's do it.
Not sure if we'll get to all of them, but maybe it'll give us something to talk about on Sunday because it's going to be a nice, quiet weekend. The team's just going to practice, get better, 1%. It's going to be great. Get Down Black begins us off with what's up, Ashman and Sea Dog.
Okay.
2 G's on the Sea Dog. Wake up. Guess what? We actually got corners that look back for the football. We finally got some real coaches. Just want to get y'all's opinion on the 3 corner spots. Who do y'all think starts? How many interceptions do you predict? Cornerbacks, based off the video snippets, Asante, Jay Jones, that would be Jarian Jones, and Mako, my prediction. And I'm saying 17-plus picks this year if we play a full season.
Well, it won't be a full season. Oh, he's talking about the 11. Yeah, well, Asante, obviously, Akeem Dent, and then, I think that
Mako.
the
Mako's
third
for
one
sure.
is
Miko.
or Jarian, right?
I always thought Jones was more of a safety personally, but I think he has been out there. It looks like.
But they're playing him. He said they're playing him at corner. And yeah, he's made at least 2 or 3 picks in the first week of practice, so that's impressive. And we know Asante can play, and I know Akeem Dent can play. I promise you he can. And then Miko. Imagine him being like not even in the starting lineup. Those are my. I can't pick between Miko and Jarian because I haven't seen him play. So 2 of them are going to be Akeem Dent and Asante Samuel, and then I think those 2 will be battling out for the third.
Man, Warren put it on Akeem in the last video out there. I mean, like Warren ran a route and Akeem I can't believe he cut his hair. Like, does he not know the whole tale about Samson and everything? Like the strengths in the hair.
Well, the hair wasn't great luck last year.
Yeah, guess so. What about 17 picks? More over under?
Under.
Mission takeaway.
That's a lot. That's a lot of picks.
But man, you play Samford, you get like 3 on them. I mean, what kind of quarterbacks? I mean, we should probably look at it that way, right? Like the quarterbacks they're going to be playing. I should pull that up. Georgia Tech. I don't even know who their quarterback is. Jeff Sims, I guess, maybe.
It's Reggie Ball, I think.
I'm just kidding. Georgia Tech's quarterback's liable for a pick. I'm going to say they're going to get a pick in the first game. I'm going to go ahead and say 2. Then you got Samford. It ain't
Is
Devlin
he talking
Hodges.
about the whole team or just the cornerbacks?
Well, I mean,
because you're going to get some deflections. Amari Gainer's going to get a pick or 2. E. Reiser will get a pick or 2.
Okay, all right, fine. You're right. Okay, all right, we can. Good. I was about to go on too long. Now we can go do another question. Good job, Corey. Look at you.
I do what I can. I do what I can.
Quiet Warrior. His avatar is Gene Hackman and the team from Hoosiers.
Okay, Old Hickory High. By the way, Florida State had 8 interceptions last year as a team.
Okay. Get Down Black's avatar is him and his fine lady. Good for you, Get Down Black.
Nice. Good job, Get Down.
Aslan Corey, good morning and wake up. He put it in bold, so that might be the new thing.
Okay.
Putting in bold, I'll have to say. My question, hypothetical. Who would win a game between the 2019 Taggart-led Seminoles and the 2020 Norvell-led team if the Taggart team had an 11-on-10 advantage both ways? Also, the Norvell team could not punt. They had to run plays until they either scored or turned it over on downs. Who wins, gentlemen? Thank you.
Hey, I'm a big fan of what Norvell's accomplished in his career to this day, and I've been a big fan of how he handles himself and how the players talk about him. Other than Warren Thompson and Marvin Wilson once. I guess I got to make that caveat these days. So who knows? It's crazy. Like the last show, we were talking about how just encouraging it is how the players talk about Norvell. Yeah. They really seem to believe in him, and maybe not. Whoopsies. But come on now. Let's not start thinking that this 2020 team is going to be so incredible that he's such a good coach so quickly that he's going to turn this thing into a juggernaut that could beat a team with just 10 people on the field. He could just have 10 people and beat Willie Taggart's team last year. It'd be close. It'd probably come down to the final drive.
The practical question would have been, could he beat Willie if Willie had 10 coaches and Norvell only had 9?
Right. That's the more apropos question.
Yeah.
I think you got to go with Willie's team, right? Plus he'd have Cam Akers and one less defender for Cam Akers. I think you're all right there, and one less person for the offensive line to try to block.
There you go.
Perhaps.
There you go. Adam in Naples, Florida, mad AMCZ. Wake up and hey now. Sorry, I'm a huge Stern fan. I can't help it. Were you guys surprised at the governor's roundtable? And he did put roundtable in quotes because, as it's been pointed out a few times, table wasn't all that oblong. Are you surprised that the governor's roundtable conference did not get more national attention? You had the top executive of the state, the president of Florida State University, the athletics director, the head coach, and 2 experienced players having a spirited rally for the nation about how important college football is and how safe they will be doing it. I thought it was bold and gutsy, and I'm proud of FSU for doing it. I firmly believe our players are just as safe or safer being together in a bubble playing football than they would be elsewhere. More than ever. Go Noles. He posted this at 7:50 in the morning on Thursday. So this was before the world started falling down around us.
Right. So yeah, people need to know the context of that post. Yeah. It probably would have been different at 7:50 p.m. on Thursday.
Right. I'm surprised it didn't get more burn, although I really wasn't searching out a lot for it. But it felt, again, like me being there at the IPF, it felt pretty like line in the sand. Like there's no turning back. We're doing this thing. Everything was prepped out, man. Again, Ron DeSantis was asking these guys, talk about how important this is to you. Like, talk about what you're going to do if you don't get this. And they would pretty much give you the exact answer a PR firm would want you to give if your whole objective is to get the season off the ground, which is most of all of ours objective rather. Freudian slip there, Aslan. Be careful. I guess I'm surprised it did not get more national attention.
What happened like 2 hours after that roundtable?
I don't remember. Oh, the Big Ten and everything.
The Big Ten canceled football, and then the Pac-12 did later. So that's why it didn't. It didn't have time to take off.
They pulled rank
because, it became almost not quite obsolete, but it certainly wasn't a big story once 2 of the 5 biggest conferences in the country decided to postpone football. It made me wonder if they knew that was coming, which I think we all assumed it was coming, and Florida State wanted to get out ahead of it and say, look, even though this is going to be coming later today, we want you to know we're full on. We're full on towards a football season. But look, man, we got 28 days. We'll see. I get the reasoning for it, why they'd want to do it, but we'll see how much it ends up mattering. Like you called it yesterday, it was more political theater than anything. That doesn't mean it's not true. It doesn't mean that they don't really want it to happen. Yeah. But I don't know at the end of the day how much it impacts John Swofford.
10 seconds. I mean? Who do you think went to whom? Do you think DeSantis' office approached Florida State, or do you think Thrasher and Florida State approached DeSantis?
The former. I think DeSantis approached Florida State. But that's just a hunch. I could be completely wrong.
That's just.
It's not like we don't understand where DeSantis stands.
Yeah,
we live in that state.
Right.
We know what's going on.
Some of us more than others live in that
state.
Sure.
That's right.
FSU 2 times. After all these years on Warchant, back to the FSUKnowles.com days, posting, moderating, even writing one article back in the day. The current deal was too good to pass up, and I have now subscribed. It's great. FSU 2 times. I remember he's been around since 2002, and he's back. FSU 2 times is back. Norvell 2020. It's a promo code. 25% off an annual membership, $25 e-card, 3 free months on top of it. Come on, get involved, everybody. Always good work on the pod. It helps me pass many hours on the road, and I always enjoy listening. I appreciate that, but it's not always good work. Yesterday, bad show from me. Didn't bring the energy. Apologize. Try to do a little bit better today. Question. Why have we not taken the hoops bagmen and expanded their services to include elite offensive linemen? I know the offer to get paid as a Warchant spokesperson should be enough, but obviously that is not working out so far.
Obviously that's done with tongue in cheek, but what do you think? Let's just say, and I have no idea, I really don't, that Anthony Edwards had a price to go to Georgia or Florida State to play basketball. Man, my man's going to be making $30 million in 7 months. He can't be asking for that much, right?
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Sounds right, yeah.
You wouldn't want to risk anything in eligibility or, your name being tarnished, although that doesn't really matter. DeAndre Ayton for the Suns, his name is all over those FBI calls. It doesn't matter. Right. And he took money. I can't remember what his price tag was, but it wasn't $30. I wonder if I was the dad of an offensive lineman that needed some cash. Man, I'd be getting some serious money, because that's a 3 to 4 year commitment, not a 6 month commitment.
$10,000 per month.
Football's harder.
By the way, sorry, $10,000 per month. It? $10,000 per month is what DeAndre Ayton got.
Yeah, that's not a ton, is it?
No,
That's 60 grand. That's 60 grand total that he's on campus for a chance to win. Come on, man. So yeah, I would assume that I would assume the going rate, or it should be anyway, the going rate for a college football player, an offensive lineman of elite caliber, should be much more than $10,000 a month.
I'm saying if we have a payroll, like if you're a father or a mother, like wouldn't you be coming to Florida, say if you had a really good offensive lineman as a child, as a son, be like, hey, y'all need somebody. My son's the goods.
Yeah.
I know y'all.
And
got
all
money.
we're asking for is, X, Y, and Z, $50,000 a day.
Free Zaxby's for all of us 5 times.
There you go. That'd be indescribable.
Speaking of basketball, W. Bannatyne, wake up, boys. I want to talk a little bit about hoops and the now #1 recruiting class for 2021. Top players want to go to schools that win national titles. So I need to give credit for this class to none other than Corey Clark. Your stories about the Noles run to the Natty must have swayed these guys to come to Tallahassee. Well done, Corey. Well done.
I assume they're using that. I assume when Stan and Leonard and CY are recruiting these guys, that's part of the portfolio they're showing them.
Yeah.
Is the big championship run. Now, obviously, MJ had some struggles during that. We all remember during that tournament run where I think he got
just the injury bug, man.
Injury bug, and then the bear hit him with the T-shirt gun. And then he got suspended for the Final Four game because he attacked the bear in the next game. It was crazy. It was a crazy story. But, I did my part, guys. They won a national championship. They should put a banner. They should hang a banner. You can't prove that Florida State wasn't going to win the national title, so why not claim it?
I should have probably taken this question first. I'm jumping all over the place, but let's go to this one. Let's just get it out the way. It's a good question, Eskimo Randy. It's just, we're trying to maybe pick up the optimism and the hopefulness. But again, it's not a negative question. I'll stop talking and talk about your question. Eskimo Randy says, zooming way out to a look at a much bigger picture, do you think the sport of football is in danger at all? It's been suggested at previous points, like at the height of the CTE information coming to light, but is there any more weight to it now, or is that hyperbole? That's not hyperbole.
I don't think it's hyperbole. I don't know that. If he's talking strictly about now because of COVID, I wouldn't think so because, this isn't, hopefully this isn't going to be a part of our lives for the next 20 years. Concussions will always be around. Right. COVID better be gone by this time next year or Corey's going to be mad. And you don't want that. You don't want that, COVID. So, no, I don't think so. Again, when you look at what did Pat Mahomes just sign for?
$500 million.
$500 million.
Yeah.
I get that there's that it's declining in popularity at the youth level, but these college football teams aren't having trouble filling their rosters. There's still a lot of high school football players, and there is a ton of money at the top of the mountain if you can get there, and that's always going to be enticing. So I don't think so. I think not in our lifetimes anyway. Do I think football will go away? It will. I think it already has started declining at the youth levels, but I don't know what the participation is high school wise. Maybe 8 to 10%. Maybe in the next 10 years it goes down. But your football will always be. I can't foresee a time where it's not our pastime.
No,
you know what I mean?
I agree. You're right. I'm trying to.
I am interested how all this shakes out in the next 3 or 4 years. With players' unions, associations, everything that's gone on, how the seismic shift is happening or in the midst of happening, how that shapes college football, what that looks like in 5 years or 10 years. Because I think it could look and will look vastly different in my lifetime to something that's almost unrecognizable to what we've grown up with. But I still think there will be football.
Yeah, it's like a baby in bathwater thing, right? There's too many people making too much money to not figure out a way to kick it maybe back to the players in a little bit more of an equitable share and keep everybody around still. And the health aspect of it. Yeah, it's a highly transmissible virus that we're dealing with here. Hopefully a vaccine shows up. Hopefully at some point there's herd immunity. But to that sort of point about, I think a lot of people are talking about, what about concussions? Like, well, hey, man. Like when we really started figuring out about concussions, they changed the way the game was played. They changed the equipment. They changed the way they practiced. They changed the way they punished it. So it's not like concussions were just like ignored and brushed under the rug. It was taken seriously, and I think a lot of these protocols might remain in place even when we're a little bit out the woods. One thing I did want to touch on, I was looking for this tweet that made me a little bit concerned, and it goes to the question that we're kind of still talking about here. Austin Karp, I think, from the Sports Business Journal. Yeah, there we go. Good job, Aslan. Hard Knocks. I saw this, and this floored me. Hard Knocks episode 1 last season with the Raiders averaged 705,000 viewers on television, okay? Episode 1 last year, 12 months ago, 705,000 people. The premiere Tuesday night of the Rams-Chargers Hard Knocks, 273,000 people. That's huge.
I saw that too, and I'll be honest with you, until Tim texted me last night because I think Derwin or Game Neighbors or somebody was on it.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it was even starting.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not even quite sure I realized they were in training camp yet. Like, I've been so worried about college football that I have not paid any lick of attention to the NFL, and I don't think I'm alone. Yeah. Like, usually Hard Knocks was like the start, like, oh, man, football season is here. I can't wait for the first episode of Hard Knocks. I legitimately didn't know it was on last night until halfway through the show. By the way, did you get to see Jalen Ramsey talking to the reporters? How awesome was that?
My gosh, man. Good grief.
Hey, I got it, though. Like, he did it. He answered it. He answered it again, trying to be funny. And then they asked him a third time. And look, they weren't asking him, hey, man, are you going to sign a contract? They were asking him, does it hurt at all to not know? What's it like to be unknown? Does it change anything when you go into a season? But you could tell after the first 2 times he wasn't going to answer that question. And when they asked it again, he just bounced. And then he came back. He's like, I'm only here because they told me to. Yeah. And here, man, this is why I'm mad at you. And he basically berated him for a minute and a half. That was good stuff. Reminded me of some of the 2014-15 days.
Good old times. Yeah, that was crazy to kind of see those numbers. But yeah, I had to go. I went back and watched the replay on HBO Go.
Did you know it was on?
No, I only.
That's what I'm saying. Why
God bless Ira. Ira posted a story on Warchant about big time Florida State flavor on the West Coast edition of Hard Knocks, and I was like, oh my God, that premiered tonight, which is crazy.
Yeah, that's weird, right? Because
he
wouldn't have had to tell you last year that it was coming on. We all knew, but this year, I just think everything about this year has been so different. Our viewing habits have changed. I legitimately I did not know training camp had started, and I live 12 miles from a training camp site. Up here in Georgia, and I did not know that training camp had started. So a lot of factors, I think. But I guess I don't think that means that the football is going to decline in popularity. Yeah. I think it's just crazy viewing habits right now.
And first off, the real beginning of the football season's Last Chance U, then
Correct.
Hard Knocks. So
have you seen that? Have you watched it yet?
I've watched all but the last episode. I got to watch the last episode. I'm on the last one.
By the way, I don't know if it's like the Madden jinx or something. But every team that these guys pick now are terrible.
Right.
Like all of a sudden they're like, get a team that can win some games. Last chance producer. Yeah. I like now this coach is eminently more likable.
Oh yeah.
Than the first two. Those guys were just they're just awful. They just seem like awful human beings. This guy seems like a decent enough person. So at least they got that going for
him. Can you describe Flowery Branch in 15 seconds for us that have never been there?
It's beautiful. It's God's country. It's flowery. The Falcons practice there. Should be a Super Bowl trophy in that facility, but there isn't. And yeah, that's it. That's how I've described it.
John Henry Jones Jr. Hey, Aslan and Corey. With conferences canceling or postponing seasons, what do you think the coaching turnover will look like going into 2021? Do you see any head coaches getting fired this year, unless it's for some for-cause scandal? I can't even really see coaches who do have a season and perform poorly being fired. Just to clarify, I don't mean programs laying off coaches for financial reasons. I mean, will coaches be fired for cause or without cause, that being poor production, this year? I think schools will want to avoid taking any buyout hit of firing coaches this year with how bleak the finances look. And then the idea of hiring a new staff going into 2021 sounds miserable. Thanks. Yeah, could you imagine having to do a cross-country search like the way they did for Mike Norvell in the midst of this pandemic right now? I guess maybe on a private jet it's not that big of a deal, but...
I mean, or maybe we just Zoom it. Like, is there anything they learned from being in the room that they couldn't have just talked to him for 4 hours on Zoom?
I guess. Yeah, good point.
I mean, come on. No, I maybe that'll cut down on flights and money that way because you can just Zoom now.
But could you fire? You couldn't fire Willie Taggart after he went 6-6 in 2020, could you? Not with this.
It would be hard. This is such a unprecedented mess. It would be really hard to. Yes, it would be. It'd be really hard to fire someone. Now, look, if you go 1-9 or 1-10, even in a limited schedule, and you've been there 2 or 3, 4 years, yeah, you could do that. But again, you're not going to want to be paying a buyout right now. And the search, not just because you have to get on a plane and go to every city in the country, but just looking for someone at this point in time would be really hard. It's a good point. I hadn't even thought of it, but I can't imagine. Like what would you say the normal percentage is of a college football teams that fire their coach? Is it 20%? In the Power Five?
Oh, not Power. Yeah, I guess. Yeah. I mean, golly, the SEC one year had just like absurd. Like it was like
I would think that gets cut at least in half. Like if usually there are 9, let's say usually there are 12 Power 5 schools that fire their coaches at the end of the year. I would think this year at most you're looking at 3. I just think it's, you just grin and bear it and grit your teeth and say this is a season unlike any other. We almost can't even judge what happens because this isn't a normal football season. So, yeah, that's a good point, but I don't think the coaching turnover won't be nearly as severe as it usually is.
Here's a nice note from a poster named Frank and Noel. First post to the show. I live in Martinsburg, West Virginia. Famous people. Christian Lopez, 25 years old, rock singer. Do you know what band Christian Lopez?
I'll look him up. I'm going to Google right now Christian Lopez, rock singer.
Okay. And Belle Boyd, 1844 to 1900, Confederate female spy. I'm formerly from Niceville, Florida, home of Florida State offensive lineman commit Kimo Macanole. No real question, just wanted to say what's up to you both. Corey, I laughed at the shout-out you made to that fella in Atlanta after he got a pen from you from the federal government agency in Atlanta.
Yeah.
I work there as well, but in D.C. We have many Knowles in my office and even a bulldog or two. You cannot imagine how crushed we would be with no college football this fall. Daily, I see so many on ESPN talk about the South being delusional about the virus. All of this makes me even more thankful for Warchant.com. P.S. If we ever have a Florida State-West Virginia game, I will be in garnet and gold. Well, thanks for listening, Frank. Appreciate it.
And they should reschedule that at some point, I would think. Christian Lopez was in a band called the Christian Lopez Band.
Oh, of course.
He was born in 95, but on Wikipedia it says his age is either 24 or 25.
Okay.
In 2015, Rolling Stone named him the best newcomer at the Americana Music Festival and Conference.
Okay.
He's packed, with the article stating that he packed so much kinetic energy into a set and sliced so many strings that he had to finish on a borrowed guitar.
All right. Well,
so that's it for Christian Lopez. But I don't. It looks like he's like his own dude. He's like a singer-songwriter that isn't like he's not like the front man for Panic at the Disco or something.
All right. Well, maybe that'll be the music that we start the show off with today. I'll go back.
There you go. Nice.
You know what I did yesterday? You know what the song that started the show was yesterday? The mariachi or the Hispanic band's cover of Hotel California that was played in The Big Lebowski.
Oh, look at you, buddy.
Yeah.
You're crushing it these days.
Let's just do that because of me imagining Don Henley having to belt it out another time. And the thing is, for me, I'm so sold out to the fidelity of the recording I first listened to a song. So the way I hear it on an album, that is the way I want to hear it if I'm paying to watch you live. But when they play live, they have to change it up because they're so sick of playing it all the time. And then it kind of waters it down. It's like, yeah, this was like the remix, but I didn't come here for the remix, man. Play it the way it was recorded.
I feel you, buddy. Hey, by the way, I just looked it up. Where did we say he was from? Martinsburg, West Virginia?
I think so, yeah.
Hack Wilson, Baseball Hall of Famer,
okay,
who holds the record for most RBIs in a season at 191, maybe? 190 or 191? He's from Martinsburg, West Virginia as well.
I didn't even know that.
How could you? How would anyone know that? But yeah, he is.
Okay, we've about hit the hour mark here. Let's take, I guess, 2 more questions. We'll clean this up. I think we might have 2 or 3 left that we can get to on Monday. So I should probably have pre-read these. I don't even know what I'm about to walk into. Let's go. Wake up, Marnol55 says, I was listening to the Chuck Oliver show. He referenced SMU and the death penalty and how the Big Ten shutting down for a year could possibly take years to recover, making the point that the NCAA death penalty was for only 1 year, but SMU knew that it would take multiple years to ramp the program back up, and they imposed that second year themselves. SMU was 41-5 at the time. Programs like Ohio State and Michigan might be okay, but the rest of the conference will suffer greatly. What are y'all thoughts? Late edition, he edited and put this in and on Thursday night. After another Twitter incident, Corey was right from last year. This team is still making it hard to like them. Ooh.
Oh, okay. And yeah, I mean, I don't even know how I come off at the start of the show. I feel like part of me defends Warren Thompson and part of me attacks him like I'm a fan. I don't know. It's hard, man. This whole thing's got us all screwed up, all screwy. The first part of the question was what?
So is the Big Ten
about
not
the SMU?
Yeah. It's like Illinois done? Is Purdue done?
Yeah, I mean, aren't they always? You know, they're.
Well, that's what he was saying.
Unless Red Grange comes back.
He's saying that Ohio State and Michigan might be okay, but the rest of the conference will suffer greatly, or at least that's what Chuck Oliver said.
I mean, if it goes down right now as planned, if we get to a season and the ACC, SEC, and Big 12 all play 10 conference games and are on our TVs each Saturday and then get together. I know the NCAA said they're not going to have fall championships, which is a bummer for Kerkorian and the soccer players and volleyball players across the country, for real. I'm not being dismissive.
Yeah.
But if the college football, those 3 college football teams play like that and actually have a season and the Big Ten's sitting out, yes, it's not irreparable. Not for players, not for schools like Ohio State and Michigan, but it would be a big deal. And it would be hard to overcome in a year or two. But for most of those Big Ten schools, they're struggling anyway. There's Ohio State is the only one that can really compete with the best schools in the country. I don't think it would be like the SMU impact, because SMU was one of the best programs in the country, and they went from that to they're still not back. I mean, they're still. I mean, literally SMU. Like, I grew up with SMU playing in like big bowls, and Craig James and Eric Dickerson. They were a big time program.
Lance McElhenney.
Yeah, and then all the players were driving Corvettes, but whatever you got to do to get them to SMU, and then they haven't been anywhere close since. So I don't think the Big Ten would suffer like that, especially if they form some sort of spring season. If they can cobble together some sort of spring season, I don't think the damage would be, like I said, irreparable or SMU like at all. But it could hinder them for a couple of years for sure. Absolutely. I mean, imagine recruiting against that. I feel like you'd have a pretty good shot.
Oh, let's see here. Let me pick out the last.
And I wonder if Chuck Oliver was saying that in regards to like they'd have a hard time playing another season. Like, are they really going to play 20 games in 8 months? Are they going to have 2 seasons in 9 months?
I think you're on the right track. I think it's kind of like, will it be a quasi death penalty almost, like harikari or something?
What I wonder is, would early enrollee, if they have a spring season in the Big Ten, would early enrollees at Ohio State get to play in the season?
I don't see why not. I mean, you're there. I mean, I guess, but you don't have any academic eligibility established since you're just enrolling at that time. But,
well, that happens anyway with kids
summer
that come into.
Enrollees,
but golly, you're talking about a kid that should still be in high school and now he's a starter. And if that's the case, maybe that makes it easier to recruit in that instance. Like, hey, man, you don't have to wait till September to play. We're playing next week. You could be our starting safety.
Jolin Cones, this will be the last one we'll take. We got a couple other. Kirk Knoll, Rich 5203, Big Steve 022. We'll get to you guys on Monday. That is my charge. Jolin Cones, wake up. Less than a month away, fellas. Hopefully we can keep this slightly positivity going towards the right direction. This was posted at 10:56 a.m. So on Thursday. So, he knows what's going on around him.
Okay, good.
However, if the season does not get played or some players choose to sit out, how will that affect scholarships for 2021? Will the NCAA let the players keep their scholarships for next year? And will the NCAA let schools have more scholarship players than usual due to COVID? I would assume the latter, because isn't that pretty much what they've done with baseball?
Yes.
Like they've, so I would imagine they would extend the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I do think for all the faults the NCAA might have, I don't think they're going to have a blind spot to this one. They're going to have every effort. They better make every effort to the kids that had a season taken away from them in any sport still have the ability to play out their eligibility. Just like every player through the history of time has gotten 4 to 5 years to be eligible.
All right, man, these other questions, I almost want to get to them. Kirk starts it off by, how are the two greatest podcast hosts doing? Rich5203 says, appreciate all you guys do. And then Big Steve022 is always posting and giving us questions. So I do want to jump into that, but I also want to go to sleep. So we're done.
Oh, so you're not gonna do that. We're done.
Just give them a shout out, though. Just let them know that we see you. We see you. We'll be back and we'll talk about it. So do stay connected to Warchant.com. Again, the team is practicing on Friday. There will be interviews again with Coach Norvell, we assume, and selected players, and we'll have all that for you, courtesy of Corey. And the great thing is, man, again, there's 100 reasons why you should join Warchant. Again, the promo code's Norvell 2020. 25% off an annual membership, $25 e-card, 3 free months tacked on top of it. And listen, I know I'm the video guy, quote unquote, but there's something about I like reading stuff. I sometimes don't want to have to sit through a 25-minute interview to hear what was said. In real time, Corey is knocking out all this from the interview. So every interview that's being done in real time, Corey is in the thread, knocking out every single sort of tidbit. You don't have to look at Twitter and get lost in the feed. You go onto the thread. It's a super great thing that you're doing, Corey. Appreciate you grinding for us. Although I just miss your face, man. Just kind of wish I could, see you in person. It's just different.
I know, buddy. That'll happen one of these days. And I've told you this from the beginning. They don't call me the grinder for nothing.
Okay. Do you think? Are we ever going to do a show in person again, you and I? Like, will you be sitting in a room with me doing a podcast? Like, when will?
Don't see a reason to ever do it again. I'm trying to think of a reason why I'd ever be in a room with you again.
Ouch.
And other than like maybe a press box, but even then, I don't think we're going to be in the same room. So no, I don't know. Maybe at your wedding.
Oh, all right, there we go. Look at that. Way to pick me up.
Yep.
Way to pick me up. All right, folks, thanks so much for listening. Again, stay connected to Warchant.com. All your practice updates will be waiting for you there in the late morning, early afternoon. Corey, hey, man, let's do it again on Monday.
You got it, buddy. Can't wait.
Finally, an answer to the age-old question, which comes first, the chicken or the egg roll? Easy. Just eat whichever one's closest. The Sensation Salad and Filet Sandwich Meal are back at Zaxby's. Both feature our famous hand-breaded chicken, crispy wontons, Asian slaw, and citrus vinaigrette. And each comes with its very own egg roll for a limited time only at Zaxby's. Try them with fried pickles while supplies last.